Not those who can hear me loud and clear, please send me emojis, please. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. I think I can be heard loud and clear now. I will start this program. I don't want to be long. I don't want it to be long, but it might due to the nature of the program. And the program is quite timely. And the reason we are having this discussion, it's about the urgency, the importance placed on make sure we remove the NPP administration democratically. But again, it's making sure we bring about change. And what that change means is change of direction where this country is going. Then this discussion is not about a single political party, because as I believe, not a single political party in the country can bring about change. Change will be brought about by Gambians when they engage participate in the politics honestly, in order to make sure the first thing is done, that's to remove the NPP administration in office, and secondly, to guarantee that the administration that's going to replace the NPP will be administration honest, capable of bringing about change. Then, if that's the case, it's something that we all have a role to play. But obviously, some people will have more significant role to play due to the influences that they have. Just as if we consider political parties, much is expected from those political parties that we know and perceive to have the influences to lead, to bring about the change that is required. But again, as I emphasize, the change cannot be guaranteed by a single political party. And I will emphasize again, the change is not about removing the Barrow administration from office. No, but the change itself is to make sure the trajectory of our politics and our country moving is forward, not backwards or to where we are. As I said, it's important to discuss this because where our country is today, if you look at it in all measures, we are a failed state. And it's not the issue, again, about corruption, as we have seen the level of corruption in the country now, in all spheres, to the extent that we have seen the evidence of people who are in position of delivering and we have before. Guys, I'm kind of having technical, my page is kind of playing up. In case the page, it stopped broadcasting, I will move on to my personal page. We are on the Open Gambia page. It's kind of playing up. But if you can please share this program so that it can be catch on the Open Gambia page as well. So sorry, on my personal page as well. That will be helpful. If you can share it with tagging my name, that will be helpful to catch it there because I cannot share it whilst I'm transmitting here. But the control the drug cartel have in that country, which I am not going to go deep into, but I can just give you bits of the recent one, where the Navy, the Gambian Navy is find out to be for a while now. This is not today, not yesterday, not 2 weeks, 3 weeks, months. Now been involved in conspiracy of letting the cartels bring drugs into the country. And these are tons and tons of cocaine. and other substance, other form of drugs that they process in the country itself now. Where some Navy officers are alleged. Imagine if junior NCOs are alleged to earning about $3 million is to buying properties, then how much their seniors are earning. And I can tell you, it's not the junior officers alone involved in this. But again, when we get to that next week, inshallah, we'll uncover how it implicates the political party of the NPP, how it implicates the people heading institutions in the Gambia, and the cost to the Gambian economy and Gambian life for that matter. In that being the case, it becomes very urgent, very near to what we said in 2016, that Jammeh had to go, but the difference today is the sense of urgency at 2016 was because Gambians were killed and arrested every other day or minute or second. Which, to be honest, that's not the case right now. What does that say to us is we have more freedoms that we fought and guaranteed for ourselves. Nobody gave it to us. Then we have the chance and opportunity right now to bring about change meaningfully. Not as desperation as 2016 to say that whoever gets in there is fine with us. Even you bring a dog, we'll vote it in. We are not going to allow that, or we should not allow that. And if I say we, I am talking on the audacity of Gambians' voices, which I believe that's what Gambians are thinking about. If we have an opportunity to do things even better, we are to do that better. We are not going to allow a situation that we let anybody just to go in and take over that government, and we are not going to have the change that we aspire to have that will change our narrative. Now, we have to be realistic and understand the reality within our political parties. The political parties in the Gambia might be better off each other. Might be better off each other, but one thing in common, they are not living. To be honest, to know that our political parties, as they are today, they are not fit for purpose. But to be very honest about what we are witnessing today. Now, in saying that, as citizens, we are the one who supports, who creates, who sustain political parties. Then it's part of our role to make sure within our political structures, we are honest to our leaders, we are honest to our political party, to tell them the facts as they are. To again be responsible as members of those political parties to ensure that we help to create an environment that our party leaders can come together to build this unity of purpose in order to bring about the change of government, of Barrow being removed from office, and make sure so we put in a government that is capable. As political parties, again, it's to our interest, this goes for all political parties, to be honest to each other, to know the realities of our political parties. What are we comprised of? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And if we are to put the interest of our party first, it's to be honest to ourselves as a political party. Because Gambians are not fools. No political party can bamboozle us based on any other PR or any other thing. The reality of that country is been lived by Gambians, in and outside the Gambia. The reality of that country has been followed and known by Gambians who have studied, have the knowledge to understand the political realities of every political party. If political parties are not honest, realistic of who they are, what they are comprised of, what they are capable of, thinking they can bluff their way out, they are fooling themselves and they are not honest to themselves. They are not putting their party interest first. I want people to understand the word party interest. People think that if you put your party interest, it supersedes the national interest. No, absolutely not. Putting party interest is to make sure that you have done things that will sustain your party. But it cannot go beyond the stability of the country. It cannot go beyond, in fact, the interest of the country. Then your party interest cannot supersede the national interest. The minute you realize that your party interest would supersede or likely to supersede, then you should walk back and redraw the line to know that that's not to your interest. It's not your party interest. Your party interest is for sustainability, to progress. Progress in what? To making sure the state is stable, to make sure the state is progressive, make sure our democracy is credible, make sure we can bring about change democratically, and make sure when change happens democratically, we progress the trajectory of development in a way and manner that Gambians would see the yields that they work for. But in the case of political party, cutting and diving and maneuvering, thinking that they have the know-how to baffle us, or to have young people who have little education of politics, or especially Gambian political history, to come online on TikTok and everywhere else to pollute, thinking that they can sell their political parties and their candidate source. You are not honest to yourself. And you are not doing favor to yourself, your political party, and you are not fooling Gambians. But what you do you are actually risking opportunities that we have to bring about change this time around, because the Barrow government is as vulnerable as it comes, but that depends on where the Gambians would organize themselves and make sure we bring about the change peacefully as possible. Because of why? The evidence is no political party in the Gambia is honestly exercising an internal democracy as best practice. No. None. You like your leader as you want. You like your party as you want. Be loyal to it. If you don't know this fact, then you don't know about your party. If you don't know this, if you know this fact, you would have admitted. If not, you are a dishonest person, and we are not here for that dishonesty. We have to be truthful in order to find our solutions. There's no political party in the Gambia that is savvy enough or doing right within their internal politics to determine the future of that party. None. It's not the UDP. It's not PDOS. It's not SFR. It's not NUP. It's not how to call it, GDC or any other political party, opposition political party. And that being the case, what that tells us that we have to realize these facts, and in order to look inwards, to rectify every mistakes and admit to our weaknesses, and to put the party interest, as I said, a party interest cannot supersede the national interest, to come honestly on the negotiating table to negotiate what can bring about change of removing Adama Barrow. Not only that, in bring about change that will ensure that Gambia goes into a transition where reforms will happen, where we can project the strength of our nation. We have strength. Within the geopolitics that's running right now, in order to survive as a sovereign nation, in order to survive as independent economic sovereignty that can move the lives of our people and stop the sufferings and the hardship Gambians are facing. This is what it's about. It's not about any individual. It should not be about any political party. But it should be about collectively what can move the Gambia forward. As we said earlier, that a single party cannot do it, a single individual can't do it, but it is collective. And it's not only the responsibility of those within political parties, but it's the responsibility of all Gambians. But again, I emphasize, for whom much is given, much is expected. And this does not go only for political parties, it goes for citizens. If you are lucky enough to able to articulate, if you are lucky, privileged enough to able to spend time on social media, if you are lucky, privileged enough to have influence or whatever it is, that should be pushed into bringing a unity of purpose within opposition parties to make sure they are, all the weaknesses are ironed out, and bring our strength together and bring about the change that we aspire for Gambians to move forward. Because we have a history of failure of transition, and that should be changed in order for us to move. Look, the essence of transition, when people plan for the future, they look at the situation they are now, how they can sustain and work effectively with this situation and get through a process, which is the transition, to stand better position in order to able to move to the future. And if you can't guarantee it, if you cannot successfully transition from this position to the next position that you would be in a better, where you build your foundation to be a better position in order to move forward, then you will never move forward. And this is the reason we are never moving forward. It's a disgrace to hear that Nigeria is sending extra, rotating another 150 soldiers. Nigeria that cannot keep their country safe. Not the north, not the middle, not the south. They're having problem everywhere. They are not far better than us. But look at what is happening now. And all the things we can change. We fail in transition. Jawara did not succeed in handing over the country. His role should have been moving the Gambia to transition from colonial rule to independent sovereign nation, not to hawk the position until he was deposed for 30 years. He failed. We all know the dictator came. We are not giving excuses for the dictator coming. But two, we are not going to be stupid to stand here to not recognize that an environment was created that enabled a dictator to emerge among us. And we all have, if I said we, I said the most responsible have responsibility of allowing that to happen. The stakeholders have that to allow that to happen. But we all know that the dictator wanted, he said it, literally. Some people thought he meant it metaphorically, but anyway you look at it, the evidence were on the ground that he was socially engineering in order to stay in the country forever. And staying in that country forever does not mean that him, Yaya Jammeh, be staying forever. We all know that's not possible as a human being. But what it means that his rule and legacy would have lived forever from one person passing to other. And technically, his rule is still moving. Look at the composition of that government we have now. Then we should understand then, what about if he was still around? If he was removed, but the remnants of him are able to capture and hold onto government, then if he was still around, what will happen? But we taught him a lesson. And 2016, we were able to remove him. But what we failed in, it was that transition, again, that Saudi Arabia failed. To make sure we were honest to each other, to make sure we guarantee a transition would ensure and guarantee that a dictatorship would be normal. And we have moved out of the transition to build a foundation of democracy and foundation of economy that will guarantee our sovereign wealth be distributed among Gambians and reduce the suffering or eliminate the suffering. Because I can tell you we have all the resources that it takes. Don't believe in anybody saying that we haven't got oil. Yeah, there's so much more to understand, but doesn't mean that we don't have it. Or other mineral resources which we already have even is enough. It's enough to be exploited to make sure we have that sovereign economic independence. It's more about intellectual than material. All the countries that fail, what do they have in common? They have more natural resources than brains. Be the Congos, be the Angolas, be the every country else you hear that draw into civil war, be the Sierra Leones, be the Libyans, be the Ivory Coast, is because they have more resources than heads. The leadership completely failed. That what they teach us that leadership is the most essential. To develop a country. Brains are what develop countries. Leadership and character are what develop countries. Resources are the enabling, are part of in fact the enabling factors that can rapid develop a country. That being in the case, we know that we failed transition from colonial First Republic. The dictatorship came, and we were going to, in fact, stay with the dictatorship forever. We talked about that. And we know that now, we are, in fact, the continuity of the dictatorship. We have not transitioned yet. And this is why it's essential that what we work for now is not to win Adama Barrow and replace it with a political party, and that party to continue to do as they wish, and we go on to the struggle again. Now, what is now is we come together, unity of purpose, to make sure we remove the administration of Adama Barrow to ensure we have a government that will work unison with all stakeholders to change and bring about the foundations that will enable us to work for our future. That's what we want. If we come to political parties, we know that the PPP failed in transition as political party. And every political party that existed in the First Republic failed. And that those parties died with their political leaders. Just to name some, the UP, United Party, that nearly won elections, nearly. But the PPP maneuvered and make sure they are normal. We have the NCP. Reduced to nothing. It's just now gangsters, manipulating and using a name for nothing. We had other parties in the First Republic, GPP and others. We came in the Second Republic, we know. Today, the PDIS did not transition any leader democratically, within their internal democracy. Nobody can show you the process how leadership came out from Sidi Jatta to Halifa Sallah. Now we have seen the crisis within PDIS to bring about new leaders. To the extent of we, even the political observers, or people within the PDIS cannot tell you that these are the potential leaders we have to take over, or this is the month, this is the year, or this is how we're going to go about bringing about the leadership. Then hence, if Khalifa say he's no more going to be a lead this thing, and less than 2 years to elections, we have in this thing tells you that transition have failed. For the other parties that have not transitioned yet, because we don't have timeline, the timeline for transition within political parties depends on when the political leader said that I am going to leave. There's nothing like a time limit within political parties, which is a good thing, but it doesn't absolutely need to be there. But in a developing democracy, I would recommend that it's practice. It will help to mirror, what that party would be when they go into government, or try to inform the intelligentsia and intelligence of Gambians and the mindset of Gambians to ensure that we are practical and used to term limits within our frameworks, political frameworks. Which bring us to the leadership of UDP. Right now, there's no clear transitional process, which is actually responsible for the tensions within the party and going. And still we don't know where it's going to end, but we are going to discuss that later. The objective of a unity of purpose is to tackle the challenges we have before us. I have talked about the ticking time bomb that we face, which today is glaring for every Gambian to see. I've talked about the failure of economy. To the extent of we don't have an economic program. A government that does not have an economic program just tells you something. I didn't waste my time to listen to the Shoshona, the address of the president. I don't waste my time to listen to that. Because we know there's no program. We have seen the failure of this government able to point to creating any jobs, or an environment that they can look at data and point to this data, say that our intervention in agriculture have created this much. They cannot report that. They cannot look at the marine fisheries, the resources, abundant resources of billions of dollars, not millions. You see, if people are just thinking of the oil, do we know how much of resources we have in our marine sector? They cannot point to that to tell you how much revenue or how much jobs have been created directly and indirectly, because there's no program. It's just handed over and they get their kickbacks. They can tell you how much, you see, at times it's thank God we didn't even have oil, because this country would have gone quicker to civil war. We have gone quicker to civil war because of the divisiveness within us that the politicians are engineering. Just imagine the mining going on in the Gambia, to the extent of many Gambians can't even tell you how much of mining is going on in Basse, in Combo South and other places. We have seen reports from Republic. We have seen the environmental damage that the future generations are going to suffer. What we haven't seen is the revenue. All that is reported is crap. And we all know that this money is used to sponsor the NPP. This money is used to sponsor the patrons of the NPP. That's why NPP can do what they do. These are facts. But we cannot show you what Gambians gain from the mining sector, apart from the damage done to us. Our forestry, we can go on. Jobs are not created. We know, just imagine how many students are dropping out of school and nothing for them to do. And we wonder why crime is going up. We wonder how many students are going to university and all the institutions and coming out without effective qualifications to engage in the market economy, because their curriculums are not drawn for the market economy, or they are not built competitively to have the subjects that they have to graduate, and they'll be headhunted to go anywhere in the world, or in fact to create the skilled workforce that will create an enabling environment for smart investors to come in, because of the human resource we have, so that we can, have a niche onto that. There's so many we can do to create jobs. None. What this government comes with. You see, things we say here, we can reference them. Estonia, Estonia around here. Do you know Estonia now? Technically, they are running this the technology skills market for Germany, because Germany prefer a white pill this thing, and Estonia understand this. Estonia will tell you they export of any other thing, but they're human resource in IT. There are so many things Gambian can do. But this government, what do they have? Taking house help. I'm not discriminating here, but these are real, taking house help to where they are abused. Because this not maybe because of the data out there tells you that whether it's reported or not, this is likely what will happen. If you take 10 people, expect so many of them to be abused one way or the other. They are going to work under inhuman, racist environment. Or taking other 10 people to Spain to work in a very hostile, a slave-like environment. Why can't you create that better environment with your agricultural sector to produce, to export? Because you don't care. They don't care. That's why they get someone, and I hate people even referring to the agriculture minister as a nurse. A nurse is a honest, important and moral job to do. The guy is just useless. Let's just start giving him any other qualification. He is what he is. He's a tribalist and is only appointed because of the job he did for during the campaign to fund the tribal sentiments. The Barrow doesn't care. So now the rains are coming. It's only a few weeks. Farmers were still complaining about not being paid. And we are not hearing about the fertilizer being distributed. We are not about no tractors or anything. Nothing, absolutely. Not prepared. It's not a priority. But that is the urgency. Knowing that the bringing all this and the corruption and people suffering and seeing this small percentage of Gambians living a life of luxury. The country divided on two-tier system, the have and the have not. Private school, private hospitals, foreign education, compared to the rest of this thing have to suffer in public unfunded schools and public unfunded hospitals. But not only that, the drug cartel taken over, doing as they wish. Our youths become victims of the environment this government created or refuse to tackle. Now those youths are turned to hardened criminals, been sent to remand, to stay for years without being tried. There's no reforms on seeing how can we rehabilitate and even stop these youths getting to the prison cells. Because if their own children or family members commit crimes, they will not go to prison. That's guaranteed for them. Just as most of those people, fathers, mothers, family members, are the one creating the corruption, and we'll never hear them going to prison. Those are part of the urgencies. But the urgency here too is knowing that there's no single political party that can go and reform to ensure we have a credible democracy. No party can do that. Single party can do that. But collectively, as the opposition parties, we can come together, work together, and make sure we have a credible or measurable democracy that will allow us the opportunity, because the opportunity is present there for us to bring about change of removing this administration and replacing it with not only other administration, but an administration capable of delivering the goods that Gambians want. There's no single political party that can guarantee an election that has integrity. There's no single political party that can ensure that when they win the elections, IEC will turn around and give them what they deserve. And we know that we know it from experience already, the Supreme Court would not give you what you deserve. Then how can you do that? You expect to take to the streets, and it's not likely that you will succeed. And we know the risk associated with taking the streets. Not to the things, because these are the things that the government prepare for. Part of stealing elections is not only making sure the ballot is stolen well before the ballot day, but they even have to make sure when they steal it, they can guarantee keeping the power. We have to remember that. And no single political party can guarantee this. Does it not make sense then? If no single political party can guarantee this, then it is to our interest, that political party interest, the Gambian interest, the national interest, to make sure we come together to effect this change. But as I said earlier, for people that did not come early, we have to be realistic. We have to be realistic, just as we have to be realistic to hold accountable for those who are given, that much is given, much will be expected from. If we don't come together, these are the risks we have. Because we are going after what? An incumbent who is absolutely corrupt, who have advantage, but does not mean that we cannot take him on. But we can only take him on when we come together. We have an incumbent that is really scared of leaving power. He has to be forced to leave power. And if that's not the case, if that's the case, then why can't we see the need to work together to bring this about? And I said earlier, for those that came, you can listen first. This is all of us. This is the citizens as we are. These are citizens who form political parties or part of the political parties, how we engage our leaders and how we participate in the political discourse. And if we think that we are in the opposition, or I support our opposition party different from your opposition party, it's my interest to bring down your opposition party. It's my interest to be agitating your political party, or it is, let me even start, or you are within a political party and thinking that it's your interest to agitate your political party because of you have a preferable candidate. You see? No. It is your interest to advance your party and advance the political capitals and of your candidate without disrupting your party. Because if you disrupt your party, if your candidate wins the leadership, what is he going to inherit? A broken party, breakaway party? You think, what does that going to give you? Common sense. Let's stop reacting emotionally. Let's stop acting emotionally. Yes, some people are doing it emotionally, acting emotionally, irrationally. Some people are reacting to other people acting emotionally, irrationally. But again, be careful. You should understand how politics works. And you think all these people advocating for your political party are supporting your political party? Or some of these people are not on a mission? And you cheer for them because of you think they ally with you, they are supporting your candidate? I think we should be wise enough for that. We should be wise enough for that. Or you think that some other people, portraying that they support a particular political party. For example, someone to say that I support ESA, someone to say that I support PDI, someone to say I support Mama Kande. But all that person does day and night is against the UDP, and you believe that that person support those political parties they claim to. You never find that person working hard to make sure he sells that party in order for that party to progress. These are things we need to think about. Just as I said that the political party themselves would have to think about the political leadership. How do they work out and work together to make sure their party is sellable to Gambians? Their party is sellable to other political parties. Every party should work to their interest, and which is of the interest of the nation, to make sure they can win over other political parties to form that united coalition. And again, the objective here, it's not the liking of a single person. The objective here is to put one of the most competent among us. The objective here to make sure we can win elections. But the ultimate objective is when we win that election, we can work together to form the foundations of democracy, solidify that in a transition, form the the economic foundation, solidify it so that we can move, progress our development. This is what it should be about. But if we are not careful and thinking that we have time and not putting the interest of the nation, putting the interest of the political parties, our interest is as it should be, not supersede the national interest, and expect that Barrow is going to go, we are kidding ourselves. As I said, it's not only going to the ballot box to win Barrow, but you have to be ready to make sure Barrow leaves office when we win Barrow. Guys, that would move me on to, and I am not doing this because I am against the UDP. It's because of, so far UDP have come on to position themselves. Now, if PDIs come to position themselves, and any more significant party, we are going to discuss them. And if SFR comes to position himself or fail to position himself, and we get to where it's essential to discuss them, we are going to discuss them. But what I mean here is which the address of the leader of the UDP, Honorable Senodabo, which was labeled the UDP as at a crossroad. And Dabo have declared that he's still interested to lead the UDP to charter the rough waters to bring the party to the promised, I don't want to use the promised land considering where the people who claim the promised land are now, but to the destination that the UDP desire to see themselves. Did Dabo intervention? I'm going to use series of questions. That's how I go through this in order for me, in fact, to able to critically think about what I'm engaging. Did Dabo attempt to calm the waters? Or did Dabo deliver? What I mean, is Dabo intervention temporal, or is Dabo intervention for the future? Is he just calming the waters interim? Or what he have delivered, he have probably other plans, the UDP probably have other plans. This is a beginning, and they are a way to see the party through to the future. But in doing so, we are going to ask, I keep on saying I'm going to ask these questions in order to bring out the critical thinking, and again, to help others listening to take ownership of this, and to critically think about it. Because what have been happening is people jump in with their different biases. Some people within the UDP, even by their own biases, depending on the person they support within the UDP. People outside the UDP with their own biases. But again, of self-censored. Some people are not even saying their opinion because they don't want to be labeled, or they don't want to be seen that they have biases. And guys, everyone have biases. We have to just acknowledge it and know it, and then try to insulate ourselves when we take decisions to make sure, we are doing the prudent things for ourselves and our interests. Now, Dabo have, acknowledge and probably knew for a long time, as we, even the observers from outside have knew for a long time, that UDP is traveling on, it's not uncharted waters, but very rough waters. And this should not be unique to UDP. Any government, any party or institution that have been around for a long time, and technically with the same leader and most of the same leadership, are bound to find this, resistance, and the challenges that will come within the internal politics and democracy of that party or institution. You see, this is why in corporate governance, the CEOs are retired and moved to chair the company because of what? If they perform well as CEO, for the institutional memory, for their proven track record, for the company and everything, and the ownership of, because when you stay along, you have ownership of whatever it is. Doesn't mean that the leaders only. Many UDP members have ownership of UDP because they are long-serving, their commitment and everything. They have that sense of ownership, and rightfully so. That's why they are moved. CEOs are moved to the position of chairperson in order to take a more strategic role and to able to impact more to move that company forward. Now, hence, Dabo have challenged, have acknowledged these challenges and declared an interest to run 2026. Does that settle or is that interim fix? We have to consider that many people would say the reason Dabo declared, some people are speculating, no, Dabo just did that to settle the waters so that all this brouhaha will stop, which I disagree. Because of that's not gonna, if that is the point, it's not gonna stop the brouhaha. The brouhaha is part of democracy, but the brouhaha can be controlled. It's not about censorship, but by the means of the party putting things very clear and putting a process, effective process in place. Effective process would mean time and measurable and stuff like that in order for things to calm down. For instance, if you give a timeline to say in 3 months we are going into this thing, and for now this is what we're going to do. We are going to put in a process where whoever have an interest, this is the process you have to follow. We are not going to allow people to do or how that would disqualify you or that would send you to disciplinary, and the cause of this might be this thing, because we cannot accept the party to be destabilized. Now, whoever have interest in 3 months, we are going to have an internal democracy and you can put your these things. And a month before, we are going to open a campaign period where everybody is allowed to go and solicit and do this. But within that period, everybody is to expected to do A, B, and C. If that's done, that I would have seen, okay, temporarily something is done and it's going to be fixed. Now, did Dabo intend to run? Yes. Dabo intend to run. You see, we have to understand politicians. Regardless who they are, when they are labeled politicians, they are holding political office, we have to, if it's to understand them, we have to accept them for what they declare to be. If a politician stands to say that I am a politician, be careful with that politician. That's the ruthless infant mercenary. They are the wash. Man duma politicians why luma lena wahud dega. Take politicians for their actions. If someone said, that's why people, I remember when Bissau president said, I'm not going to run. My wife said, I should not run. I said, that's a lie. He would not have come and said that. Not what you say is what they do. If you say, I'm not going to run, just as when Sadauda said, I am thinking of, or I'm planning to step down. I knew, at even that young age, Jawara was playing the card. Because if you want to do that, we all see what Senghor did. You have to come and say, I have identified a successor. My vice president would, in 3 months, been put in place, and the party constitution and the constitution of Gambia would be followed to ensure we have a transition to another leader for the party and the Gambia, and the party would prepare for elections whenever that election should be, and this. But Dabo have never come to say that he's not interested in running. Then if he didn't say it and he didn't show it, if Dabo come out to say he's interested in running, we will have to respect that what he said, and he have a right to that. Is it advisable or not? That's what is debatable. Is it in the interest of the party or not? That is debatable. Who are the ultimate people to determine, Dabo being their candidate? That depends on the political party. What consideration the political party should do to determine who becomes their candidate? That's for the political party to do. But the people outside the political party would have an interest. The genuine people will have an interest. And what interest it is, because Dabo is not being voted for by UDP alone. That UDP or no political party aspire that your members only vote for you. No. UDP aspire to broaden their base to get other people, the undecided, or other people to vote for them, even people from other political parties. We'll come to that. Then I don't believe it's temporal. I believe that Dabo is going to run. Dabo wants to run. And if UDP vote for him, he's going to run, inshallah. I emphasize inshallah. Does this settle the waters? No. As I said, because decisions are taken, but processes are not put in place. And the issues that arises, that inform the decision to be taken, are not clearly looked into and strategically dealt with, then those things are not been fixed. It's just having a big wound and putting a plaster on it. When we know that there's so many things you have to do when you have a big wound in order to stop the blood flow and to allow the blood clot, in order to fix that wound and not allow that wound to be infected. And this is literally, that's what we expect from the political parties. We can say there's a sense of ambiguity. And that ambiguity, what it did is, it has not defined anything for anyone. But it has just left a gray area for now every stakeholder to think about how to map their way through this. People who are aspirant, and I keep on saying, not in politics, be very careful. People that we know to have or show their interest might not only the people. And people that show interest might not actually have interest. It might be unique in Gambian times, but don't surprise it start popping up Gambian times. There's something called a stalking horse. Yeah? A stalking horse in this political scene here is, the conservatives are very good at that. Is to put a candidate who is not likely to win an elections, or internal elections, to challenge their leader. And if they fail, what it does is, or force their leader, in fact, the candidate forced their leader to bring about the elections, to decide his future or her future, and opening the can of worms for the real people that want to stand against their leader to come and put themselves out. Because those things are done for strategic reasons we don't have time to discuss. There is something called the group of interest group of stalking horse. Certain things, like many different groups might have a particular interest. And they might share that interest within their groups. But one thing keep them different is the choice of their candidate might be different. There might be different groups that want to see the leader to move away. But none of the groups would want to put their heads up because of it might spoil their chances of success when it comes to the internal democracy so that the candidates can be led. And those then the group will come to an understanding of how to approach and agitate for the process of the internal democracy to take place. You see, now, these things are going to happen in politics. I'm not saying it's going to happen with UDP or any Gambian political parties, but again, these are things that people should think about when they are in politics. That's why we need to study politics properly to understand how things are done. Because what we have problem in Gambia is this too, and we have to recognize that. If you have an establishment political system, an establishment political system is the opposition and the leading party of the opposition and the government are very mirrored in the way they operate in order to mobilize or structure or do their politics. For instance, the United Kingdom, we have an establishment. America have an establishment. That's why you always have a two party competing to take each other. United Kingdom, you have two parties take over each other, and almost every other country you have that system. Unlike countries like Germany, where because of the parliamentary-based system they are always in competition of how to lead to form a unity government, a coalition government. Because of the way their politics is to that extent. Now, if you, as a smaller party, now in the Gambia, we have to accept that many parties will be termed as establishment party. It's not that they have ever been to government. UDP can be defined because they've been to government before. PWIS are still establishment. Yes, they have never been to government. But they cannot be termed as establishment because they are not practicing. They are kind of condescending and not outly attacking government to show they are completely different with government. They are proposing policies different from government, but they are not actively seeking to remove government in any other democratically unconventional way of the establishment doing politics. They are doing the establishment politics. This is my difference. I hope I define that well. And any other party, be it SFL, be it GDC and others, they have not shown and done anything that would make them be framed as anti-establishment. Now, that's why if you look at it, Gambians will always have this. It's either UDP or BAR. But even the Gambians that does not like UDP, they will tell you, but if it's not BAR, it's UDP. Now, the sad thing is though, the lazy mentality would be, then let us not engage because I don't like BAR, I don't like the UDP. Let us not engage. Or to the choice of, for educated person or smart person to take a choice that because I don't like either, I just have to take worst of my preference. Now, if a country is run by this mindset, you think change is possible? Change is impossible. This is why we have something called the anti-establishment factor. Until we have a role that we have seen a party playing an effective anti-establishment politics, we are bound to be having two political parties, virtue of if this or that. Now, this is where UDP should remember this, and Gambians should remember that. Now, in order to bring about change, then should be two. To work with what we have, or invent the anti-establishment. How are we going to invent that? That's a discussion for another day. We discussed that before. But we can look at examples of how it progressed. We can work with what we have in order to have the set objectives. Might not be completely as an anti-establishment will do, but again, anti-establishment does not only happen in a vacuum. Let's look at this for instance. Now, we can build a coalition that we have learned from 2016. We learned from every other coalition exercise we have done before. We understand what made us fail on all that, and make sure this time around we will succeed, not only removing a government, but putting a government that would work to the interest of the people in a transition to build that foundation. This is working the establishment way. Do we have a choice for the anti-establishment? Yes, so. But it takes a daunting task to deliver. Are we ready? Have we seen the leadership that would make that to happen? Absolutely not. Then if that's not available now, what available to us, we should work to that. I'll give you an example. Senegal changed governments. And all the governments Senegal changed because of the establishment cannot, establishment political party tried many times. That's Ablaye Wade and the PDS tried many times. They cannot remove the Party Socialist because of the environment that the incumbent have created. The environment, the advantages with the incumbent and so forth. Now, it's technically impossible to remove them alone. Then the SOPI, what they call the SOPI coalition, came together, which was a party-led, and they removed. They removed. And the PDS came into government. And the PDS betrayed. That's always the risk with party-led. Betrayed. Because there's no mechanism to hold accountability of the party disregarding. To the extent of Senegalese believing their mindset that may coalition if in a heart may so they may be doing not only believing because of how to call it. Macky Sall said that because it's not wise not to say certain things. Macky Sall came to remove what's the party called again? Ablaye Wade from government. But Macky Sall have to, in fact, use a hybrid of a coalition. Because Macky Sall used his political leverage. He was a prime minister, a governor, a mayor, an interior minister, a campaign manager for the last election, before that coming election of Ablaye Wade. He knows where the dead bodies are buried. When people were fighting in Dakar to stop the third term and other things of Ablaye Wade, he was behind the scenes politically, preparing himself. When he came with his political party, he piggybacked on the struggle that was in the capitals of Dakar and other cities, and come as an anti-establishment, regardless of how long he stayed with this thing. Now, because of that political experience and leverage, what happened? He led it because again, the difference there is that there's a second round. In the second round, he was backed. And if it was only for the generosity of candidates, Ablaye Wade was already in government. He had all the privileges, the money and everything. And Ablaye Wade is known to be a generous, I'm not saying in the right way, to give out, to buy out politicians. If Ablaye Wade failed to do that, because of the politicians he needed to buy out from the opposition, most of them believe in they believed in change. They believe in not only that they want to remove Wade, if that's for themselves, if that was the reason, they keep Wade and go and take the money. Just as when Wade came and betrayed the others, he put certain people and keep them with the money. No, they went with Macky Sall, regardless of Macky Sall not being the most generous, thinking that the experience Macky Sall have, the trouble Macky Sall went through, Macky Sall will be true to the Senegalese people and make sure they deliver. Guess what? Macky Sall came, first thing he did was to even betray the people who helped him to form the political party and others, and brought who? The people who were in fact with Ablaiwad, the Samuel Sarr and others, in order to entrench himself, in order to disappoint the others. Now, when we're talking about coalition, these are things we learn from other countries and our country to avoid these things. But finally, Sonko did not. You know, there's something about Sonko and Obama. People see Obama not a politician, Sonko not a politician. No, they are politicians. They are very shrewd politicians for that matter. And people think that everything happened when they became candidates. No. Some people have vision for themselves, vision for their country, and they know how to cultivate that, and they do that from a very early age. And if you want to understand that, try and take your time and read Obama, Dreams of My Father, and read Obama's Audacity of Hope. Put that together critically, and you see where this guy is coming from. If you want to understand Sonko, listen to try to understand his trajectory, how he became a union leader and how he came out of these things. It did just happen. These are master craftsmen, understanding how things are done. There's even a narrative going that, oh, it's Jamaica that identifies Sonko. Be very careful with politicians. Be very careful with politicians. Until they confess, be very careful. As righteous as you see them. It's not that they're lying, but for the interest of their politics, they might silence about certain things. Now, they worked out this, and we know the struggle they have to go through in order to depose the system. Not only to remove Macky Sall, but in fact, to bring out the new trajectory that Senegal is supposed to be. Do you think that we have time within these 2 months? Within the election year? No. But can we start it from this period, started looking forward to the coming elections? But make sure these elections, we have to make something absolutely clear that Barrow is going. Secondly, we are going to create a conducive environment, democratic environment, the foundations and economic progress, in order for that dream of utopia where we can see more and establishment political parties to emerge. That's where the thinking should be. That's where the thinking should be. If not, the risk of Barrow staying, and if Barrow stayed, is 2 things. The Gambia will be destabilized in many ways. And we don't have time to go through that. Now, we talked about what is in place within the UDP to avoid the continued struggle between the different camps. Have we seen anything in place? I'm not saying that there's not, because I am not within the UDP. Probably it's something they want to put out later. Probably what they did now is just the interim. They're going to put down later. But if there's nothing put to stop that, as we talked about earlier, is bound to surface. But because what did it say? What does the message say? The only message we have is Dabo have the intention to run. Is that enough to sniff off? Yes, probably some aspirants might say, okay, if Dabo is running, I am not running. Because I just wanted to run to make sure if Dabo is not here, somebody else is not there. Probably that's what they think. Those people will be back to this. But if the people are resolved, if they believed in that they want to, I tell you, that fire is not going to be put off because of Dabo said. We have to think about it. Now, we looked at that. Now, apart from saying that Dabo have the right to run, because there's no law that should stop him. Now, any decision that should have stopped Dabo to run, that's a decision that Dabo have to take. Not because of somebody else can stop it. The only people who can stop that is the party themselves, who they decided that is best for them to lead their party. Now, if you look at the internal democracy of UDP and understand how they select, because they have not done it before, we all know how they select their other executive members, and in most cases it's arranged. Someone would leave it for that person, or they bargain between them and say, okay, this guy Ben Swara would be led to be campaign manager, that person will led to be that. But we have not seen a competitive, just as we have not seen any political party, a competitive measure to determine a leader. And then you can say that this is uncharted waters. This is where political master classes might come in. People have experience to know how these things work and others, and the internal police will come in. But what I am afraid more, that UDP might end up having a candidate that might not be even the desire of the UDP, because it's uncharted water. Then there are many ways the internal politics works to bring out a candidate. And the question is, will UDP accept any candidate that come out through their internal democracy? I talked about this before. I explained the case of Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher did not even want to be a candidate, because at that time, that generation, Margaret Thatcher cannot see herself winning an internal democracy of the Conservative. Because the internal democracy dictated that the members of parliament and the national executive of the Conservative will vote, and two-thirds majority, whoever, because they have to go vote out, two-thirds, whoever have two-thirds, that will be the leader. And because of, again, you see, these things is not unique to Gambia or Africa. Because of the conservative members, the conservative MPs and their executive things is technically the same families, same people. Yeah. Now, they are aristocrats and all those kind of things. Now, they're kind of a gentleman's club. It was mainly run by old white male. But the leader was not even going to be challenged. He was going to go unopposed. But you have one of the MP was a maverick who would not allow that to happen. He knew that he have a right to protest this. He knew he might not be the one. He will have to you have to get someone to do that. What did he do? He went and approached Margaret Thatcher, an unlikely candidate. He could have approached many people, but he knows that those people will not do it. They will not take it on. But let me go for Margaret Thatcher. There's something he must have identified with Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher, then her voice, her background, and everything was not what a conservative leader would be. Her gender, being a woman, was not what a conservative prime minister, likely candidate for prime minister would be. What he did was simple. He counted to know what number does he need to make Margaret Thatcher a credible candidate. And especially only Margaret Thatcher being a candidate. Because if they go for the first round, if they don't have the two-thirds, any one of them don't have the two-thirds majority, they'll have to rerun again. Then they rerun until they have it, because then votes will change the same. What he did was, he made it believe to every candidate, every person who have a vote, to say that, look, the person went to Margaret Thatcher and asked Margaret, do you want to run? Margaret said, no, I have no chance of winning this. She said, no, make me your campaign manager and leave the rest with me. And Margaret agreed. Then the guy said, I have a campaign strategy. The guy went to every person that have a vote and made them believe that let's vote for Margaret. It's good for internal democracy. We should not be seen as conservative of annulling a leader or crowning a leader. We should not be seen doing that. And he said to these people, true, that's good for internal democracy, but it's good again so that our leader would not be complacent, knowing that he can be challenged if he deviates from our interests. When these people bought this, but again, he made them believe that it's only just trying to get some votes. Because those people did not know that he's going to say the same thing to the entire this thing. Even people who were campaigning for Margaret, he told them, some of them, no, some of you guys, let's just vote for Margaret. And have Margaret to have some votes. That's good for your candidate. And they fell for it. They fell for it. Margaret did not win outright. She did not have the two-thirds majority, but was very close to winning. The leader. The leader resigned to leave Margaret to take over. You know what happened though? The minute Margaret took over, the entire conservative executive and the party and the MPs stood with Margaret and to make sure Margaret was elected. And Margaret stayed stably for 18 good years, overstayed for UK before she was deposed. And to be deposed again, conservative did the same thing. They put a stocking horse, line of stocking horse to kick her out. These are lessons we can learn. Now, this is the reason why too UDP have to really consider that they might have an unpopular candidate. And would UDP come around? Would UDP be unified? Or UDP would disintegrate depending on the candidate they have? If all of those people that challenge the leadership, if they fail to win, would they stay with the UDP? If they don't stay with the UDP, is any damage to the UDP or damage to those people? That's why politics is not for the faint-hearted. That's why if Dabo decides, that's his decision. Nobody can make it for him. It's a personal consideration. He knows himself. He knows his body. He knows what he wants. Then that's personal consideration, and obviously to consideration where he will look at the party interest. He had to measure the party interest. Measure the party interest would be how appealing my candidate would be outside the conservative, outside the UDP. That's a consideration that will happen. And the other consideration is the associated risk. People have to take responsibility. Associated risk, Dabo have to think about, and I know he must have thought about that, or the people around him will talk about that. What about if I let and not win? What does that say about my legacy? That's a decision that should not be reached easily. What are the associated benefits? Is it better knowing that if he runs and wins, that will unify the party, that nobody, the party will not disintegrate? I am not saying that's what will happen, but this is a consideration to Dabo have to do, and the people around him, in order for Dabo to be a candidate. But again, for the UDP who are going to vote for him to be a candidate. But again, the bothered implications. What the competitors will do from outside our political parties. How are all the political parties going to react to my candidature, or whoever is going to be the candidature of UDP? If Ben Suarez, let me not name names before they associate calling that person that's my candidate. If Ben Swire becomes the leader or ultimate person who wins, how are other political parties going to perceive their working relations with Ben Swire? Is it better or not? These are considerations that have to be taken by the people putting themselves up for the interest of their party, people who are going to vote for these people for the interest of their party. And the other thing too is what is it going to mean to the broad base of support coming for my party? Would the other people who are not subscribing to the UDP would subscribe to the UDP depending on the leadership they have? Obviously, yes. Are you the one? These are the questions, and these leaders should ask themselves too. And the ultimate questions that we talked about earlier is the behavior of executive members, other party stakeholders, supporters. How are they impacting on the party and the party leader? These are things the UDP have to consider, and what they have to do in order to make sure that impact is positive, not negative. Is UDP going to win an elections without other opposition? They have to consider that. They have to be honest to themselves. They have to be honest to themselves. And the leader leading that have to be person who have to be honest to themselves. But the point is, finally is, if there is absolute silence, you see, this is why democracy is important. That's why people that have problems go, oh, this party, internal party is having a problem. No. It's how they control the outrage. But outrage is matter of that. If people have outrage, shows that there's an internal democracy. People are saying their feelings. If people are silenced, it becomes a cult. And if you have a cult, you have no outrage within the party, then the party leadership are not informed. But we ask ourselves, are the party executive themselves honest to themselves and honest to the party themselves to make sure that they are aligned to leaders who are the interests of the party? Consider all we think of, before we blame Dabo. Dabo is an individual. Dabo is the leader. But Dabo was made a leader by who? The party executive and the other stakeholders of the party. Now, if the party executive are not honest to themselves, they are aligning themselves to any leader for their personal interests, superseding the party interests, then UDP will have a problem. If the executive members of the party are not honest to themselves, bagging a leader and not back a leader to look into the interests of the nation, their personal interests, and they supersede the national interests, we have a problem. And UDP have a problem. Because ultimately, they are the ones taking the decision. And for the people to look for the interests of the party, would not look at individual interests, regardless yours or the person you support. It's not about anyone fooling anybody, but the decisions should be really informed about all the things that we talk about that Dabo himself will consider, but again, you people should consider, the party executives. Members of the party, the stakeholders, they might not be executive members, but they are active people that have influence. Are they supporting candidates because of their relationship with those candidates and what they expect to get from a government of that candidate? Or are they supporting the candidate because it's the best that their party should put through? You see, this is why we said that in order to have a coalition, all the political parties have to be honest to themselves. But parties have to do and make sure they present the best leaders they have, considering all the things they need to consider, knowing that none of the parties are right now really equipped to remove Barrow and make sure change will happen. And to understand that too, Gambians are at a level today that we are not willing. I say we, I am talking about the voice of conscious Gambians I know of, willing to remove any government for the sake of removing a government. Because we are not going to give away the opportunity we have to remove a government for the sake of the government, another continuity. It doesn't make sense. But we are to remove a government, to replace a government with a government that can take us through transition to build the foundations that we aspire for. Do we have, finally, this is not for the UDP, but this is for people that will be opposing the UDP. Do we have the possibility of not voting for UDP, for not voting for Barrow, for not voting for a coalition and vote for one opposition party to win? I don't think so. Do we, that's one question. Can we choose another political party for that political party to win, apart from UDP and Barrow? That's impossible. But is it possible to build a coalition of political parties that would be an anti-establishment within the time frame given and select a unified leader to go to elections and ensure that win will happen, and not only win will happen, but make sure to change will happen? I don't think so. Because what it takes, I can tell you, I'm one of the masters of Gambian organizations, because I've for years observing Gambian organizations. You can have a group of 60 Gambians, and I'm talking of people that perceive themselves, or people who are perceived to be educated, or sometimes even called intellectuals and everything else, and they volunteer to put themselves among the 60, and for them to work together to bring out something, you'll find out probably only 4 of them will be active. And for things to come out and be done within the time frame and everything that needed to be done, that's not the attitude we should have. Then we should understand our weaknesses again as citizens, and to change that mindset, and to make sure we work and redouble our efforts and see what is more prudent in priority of things to bring about that change. Guys, I would just want to move on to something different now. I've completed about the Gambian politics, but this thing I am going to touch has something to do with Gambian politics as well. But it's about understanding again. The reason I'm doing this is to understand some of the aspects, not only Gambia, Africa for that matter, the challenges we have to deal with. Now, the issue about the Iran-Israel war. A lot of Gambians are taking interest. And obviously, as not only Gambia, all over the world, this is not divided into Christians, Jewish, or anything, but people who have empathy, who are human, are seeing what is happening and putting blame where blame is. Blaming Israel for what is happening. Even they might not have a deep knowledge of politics or the geostrategy of what is happening, but they will know simple facts of what they have witnessed. But why I want to bring this is for us Gambians to realize the present situation we have today. We are very vulnerable. We have seen with this going. During the First Republic, do you realize that the Gambia as a small nation have chaired international organizations before many big nations would ever chair them, even Senegal. We hosted the first SEALs Sahelian this thing about to talk about drought and other things. Gambia. This is why we have where the Radio Gambia is, that Mile 7 apartments. It was built for that conference. The OIC and the leadership that the Gambia have in many crises. The Gambia played a role in fact, settling the tensions that were between Senegal and Guinea-Conakry. Senghor and the Guinea-Conakry president, Sékou Touré. And we all know the role played by Western imperialists and roles. Senegal played a role, Gambia played a role in settling the conflict that ensued between Senegal and Mauritania. At that time, Jawara was the chair of the ECOWAS. He proactively, in fact, started to intervene, calling Abbas Bundu to Gambia and sending Abbas Bundu to both Senegal and Mauritania to avert the conflict. If I am not wrong, he was the chair of the ECOWAS twice. It was Gambia that hosted the ECOWAS community in order to intervene in Liberia, and we know what that intervention has been prevented. The deaths, and today many countries, even Gambia, would have been a different country if that intervention did not happen because of the foresight the Gambia president have and the leadership. But the biggest one was of global. It was not of sub-regional. And I can tell you the consultations that would happen. Jawara would be consulted by the OAU then in many conflicts going on in Africa, in the Western Sahara Desert, and Morocco, and all the conflicts that were going in the seas. In the liberation struggle of apartheid, Gambia played crucial roles. We hosted leaders of and students of the ANC. The liberation struggle in Guinea-Bissau, liberation struggle in many places, and other conflicts that and so. But the biggest one was the Iran-Iraq war. The interventions of the Gambia, Jawara as the chair of the OIC, started a process and where a solution was found and that war was stopped. Today we have a chair of the OIC. Not a word, nothing absolutely can be addressed effectively. But let's look at this. The war with Iran and Israel, it's not only a war between Iran and Israel. This is a war of geopolitics. And if it's sad that the president will not have the capacity, or probably even the people that had Tangara did not have the capacity, or SISO did not have the capacity. Obviously, the defense minister doesn't have the capacity to understand, in fact, how important it is to understand what's going on in that place. If we understand the intelligence and geostrategic politics of the global stage at the moment, is about redrawing world order. Now, if you understand the history of the Middle East, we have the Persians that are the Iranians, we have the Arab nations, vassal states, And we have the Ottomans, Turkey. The Ottomans were undermined by the Arabs. This is why as the Muslim nations lost their power from Turkey. From Turkey to the gates of France. France nearly become a Muslim nation or Islamic nation. They rule they rule Portugal, they rule Spain and other places. But what undermined that? They were the custodians of Palestine. What undermined that? The Arabs. But why the Arabs did it? Because of the Western imperialists. They work with the Western imperialists. We'll tell you why. For the Persians, they have an ancient civilization. Very ancient civilization. One of the most ancient civilization. That's why you can see the intelligence of their people. They fought, but who undermined them? The Arabs. The Arabs. That's why we should be very careful. Some of these things we should not debate it based on theology. I know some people theologize it, say that they are Sunnis, said, look, even that difference of theology and is present. But what makes it worse, it's a strategy that the Western have used to divide us. We can all coexist as different Muslim nations with different theological backgrounds, and we live in peace and sustainable, progress sustainable. But why are we always fighting? To the extent saying that the Israel say that when Iran is taken out, then peace will be ensured. No, they're lying. When Iran is taken out, finally, then they can have complete dominance of the Middle East, and they can lock out every other imperialist nation be the Chinese and others. This is what they're fighting against. Let's come to it. I'll explain the history to this. When neo-colonial history, when Iran had their independence, Iran went on a democracy. Iran was never, and the Persians were never known as, fanatical religious people. No, especially not even Shiites. Go and find out how many Sufis, scholars, came out of Iran. But it was forced onto them. They had their democracy. You see, the minute Mossadegh Kumase started to rule the country to the interest of the people, he was overthrown. And remember, it was the British that gave them independence. And British gave them independence, British Petroleum, BP, and the British companies controlled. And you know, when we talk about petroleum, it's not only about the petrol. And this is the infrastructure, in fact. The entire value chain of petrol was controlled by BP, making the British billions and billions. Mossadegh said, I'm not going to stay for this. We are going to take over our properties. What they did was overthrow Mossadegh. But interesting to note that the British, in order to overthrow Mossadegh, that's why if people think that Iran can easily be run over, they don't understand the Iranians. They don't understand the history of the Iranians. They are an ancient civilization. They might have their differences, but if you attack them, you unify them. When Mossadegh, in order to take him out, the British have to work with the Americans. But if many files that you read Some of this, you cannot have them in mere books. You have to be trained as intelligence to understand this, some of these things that happen. People would not even some people will not even understand that. Even though the British want to take Mossadegh out, the British did not want Americans to have dominance. But guess what? The Russians had to play a part in removing Mossadegh. Because of the Russians too, because of their bother with Iran, knowing that if Iran stayed an independent nation, and Iran, I mean independent of their sovereignty and control their wealth, with their ancient civilization, Iran was going to be so big. And again, remember, the Persian Empire have most of the part of the Persian Empire were under the Russian USSR, under USSR. Now they're scared or see a threat that if Mossadegh succeeded, then most of the countries now that are independent of USSR are going to have their independence too, and they too, they're going to succeed because of the Russians were using them to take all the wealth from them. And because of, again, Iran was a Muslim nation, Islamic nation, but they were not an Islamic republic. I mean, they were a Muslim nation. What these people did, the French were locked out. The Russians had their role because of, in order to keep their territory, they supported the overthrow. They betrayed Mossadegh, and they were working with Mossadegh. Just to show, the reason I say this is important to us, to be very careful of Russia in Africa. They are all imperialists. They are all imperialists. Now, when that happened, they overthrew Mossadegh. Guess what they did? They installed an empire. Something of bringing a monarchy back, the Shah. An ancient family of royals, bringing them back to power. And do you know now they're trying to change the regime of Iran again? Do you know who they want to bring? The daughter of the Shah. The daughter of the Shah is married to I won't call them Jew, a Zionist billionaire who is supporting Trump. Is married to Shah. That's how they want to reinstall a monarchy in Iran, and that's not going to happen. You might defeat them, you might bomb them to this thing, but that government would not stay. Now, when they brought the Shah started to give everything, privatize all the wealth and everything else. And guess what? The Iranians lived in poverty. Everything was taken away from them, and the Shah was living as a real royal monarch. And what happened next? The French, because of they were cut out of the deal, the Russians, the Americans and British took this in the French. And you look at all these imperialists, you think they are all allies. Yeah, they are allies, but it works at times. They work for their interests. The French went and sponsored the Islamic Revolution. That was the reason why their headquarters was in France. The Ayatollah was living in France, and when they liberated, the Ayatollah traveled from France to Iran. You see? When they took over, obviously, this is how religious fundamentalism came in. And they installed the Shah, the Ayatollah Khomeini as the supreme leader, and they have a form of government they created. And I can tell you they created diversity and other things. Yes, they are repressive to women in many aspects of so-called decency and others, but if it comes to empowering women to education, positions and others, they do it far better than the Arabs. Today, the missiles you're hearing and everything else, most of it is operated by women at safe areas. Go and look at the student ratio in Iran. Now, once the Islamic Revolution took over, what did they do? They went and backed Saddam Hussein in order to invade Iran. Iran then did not even have weapons. Iran but have enough volunteers. Iran then did not have a big army, but have enough volunteers that you have 10 people to a weapon. 10 people to a weapon. Iran was given their body to suppress, to run over the Iranian, the Iraqi forces. 10 people to a weapon. And this is just AK-47s. But corporate America, when Iran kept pumping oil, who started to sell them arms? The Americans. The Americans. Reagan. The Iraq contrary this thing. And using that money to sponsor another this thing in South America, El Salvador and others. Civil war. We should be careful. The IMF, World Banks, and all these things are working against our interests. But there are other things too more. That's why we need to have responsible leaders. To the point of Germany, help with Donald Trump, American orders to give chemical weapons, know-how to Iraq to attack the Iranians with it. Still, the Iranians fought. They did not give up. They did not give up. To today, they haven't given up. But within the interim, with sanctions and everything, we all see now what they can invent for themselves. Their warships. Yes, they did not spend time. They decided that rockets would serve them better than aeroplanes, jet fighters. The jet fighters they have is all, but they know the technology, the drones and every technology today, they are on top. And in fact, now the world is finding out, in fact, probably they have more sophisticated rockets than the West have. They are finding out that now. They have jamming equipment and everything else, and they are working. You see, it's not about the fight and the killing, but it just tells you what these people are planning. Now, we all know that what is controlling the American politics, APAC and everything else, is by the Zionists. Now, look at what they're doing. I'll come to Africa soon. Show you what they're doing in Africa. Now, they have denied the Palestinians a land. They are going to wipe all the Palestinians out of Palestine. Do you know why? Because all the Arab nations are controlled by the Zionists. All the Arab nations are created by Zionists. The Arab nations were a region of tribal Arab settlements. Jordan was carved out. Lebanon was carved out. The Saudi Arabia was carved out to be this thing and given to monarch. They are all vassal states. That's why they are useless. They cannot develop. And don't term their skyscrapers and everything as development. Please understand development. They are spending billions every year. The Saudis, billions, toward buy arms. They cannot even maintain those arms because of their people are not even educated. Women are excluded. Excluded. People are not highly educated. And there's certain things people don't even know. Now, how many countries are serving to protect Saudi Arabia? Even the Gambia, we have a unit of soldiers in Saudi to protect the Saudi Arabia, and Gambians don't know. They are one of the most useless states. Now, what they're doing now is, because in order for Iran to protect themselves, They build a strategy. They build allies around the region. They use them as proxies. That was the first line of defense. They did not rely on them. Be the Houthis, be the Hezbollah, be other these things in Iraq. That was the first line of defense. A satellite operated this is observation point, forward operational positions. That's what you call a forward operational position, forward observation positions. Support them. It's part of their survival. They have tried to determine. Why would the West tell them how they determine? Without the sanctions and everything else, most of the restrictions, and they would have evolved even far better. Nobody go to Singapore and tell them what kind of system they have. They draw that out themselves. But that was part of it. But the other thing was to build. And be careful. People might even think they don't have nuclear weapons. They might have it. They are smart. They're not going to tell they don't have it. We don't know. But I think the Americans have realized that, look, probably we didn't know all that things we thought we know. Let's take a break. Let's find a way of ending this. We thought we have done everything. They build their missile technology and everything ready. Drone technology is ready. Now, when this Zionist movement, they want to extend Israel into taking Cyprus, into taking part of Syria, into taking part of Iraq, to the Euphrates in Iraq. They said that this is what their ambition is. This is what their ambition is. Now they have taken the West Bank. They're gonna take Gaza. Everything was arranged for this to happen. Now when they took out Hezbollah and other, cornered the Houthis, which are they still strong, they thought now it's time to regime change. They are not doing to the interest of anything. For Iran to say that they threaten Israel, Israel already have nuclear weapon. There's no country with nuclear weapon that will attack another country with nuclear weapon. It's a lie. It have never happened. That's why America would not attack North Korea. That's why if Iran even wants it, it's their right and they should have it. Because of Israel had it and refused to declare it. But let me come to this. This is to understand that the imperialists would do anything. The neo-colonials will do anything. And today, in fact, a new one have emerged and very recognizable. You see these neocons. 3 days ago, they have announced that Congo, with all the civil war going in Congo all these years, Congo government, Secesedi, have agreed Rwanda and other stakeholders to have a ceasefire, work out peace, integrate everything else within a few days, that because of the Americans have mediated that. What the Americans are going to have in terms? Access to minerals. Access to minerals as much as they want. Do you know that the war was actually fueled by the Americans? Now they have forced the government to a point that they had to hand over everything. And those people celebrating Paul Kagame. I'll tell you one thing today. I have sat on tables where I find out and know what Paul Kagame is. He's a stooge. The wealth that is transforming Rwanda, it's not from Rwanda. The intelligence that is transforming Rwanda is not by Rwandans. No, it's a lie. They are Zionists. It's the Zionists doing all that. Paul Kagame works for the Zionists. And this is matter of facts. No, but not that I read somewhere else. I was tables and I see what these people do. and how Rwanda play a part in getting rid of Joseph Kabila and restarting the war again. Again, how the Zionists were the people behind Joseph Kabila in order to obviously take out Mobutu. And go and read the history of Congo. Go and read the book by Che Guevara, it's online, Chair in Africa. You understand Congo better than any other book you will ever read. Chair in Africa tells you more about Congo than you ever understand. But just imagine today that all that was done by Zionist billionaires, diamonds and other minerals, controlled killing, with everything that country went through, Belgium, CIA and others, it continued by the Zionists. Those Zionists now putting Trump in power and others. Now Africa, they're taken over by force, by way of waging wars and forcing the hands of our leaders. Now, why did I say this is relevant to Gambia? We have seen other African nations been forced to foot the line, and you know, they're starting with these policies, immigration policy, this policy is a lie. Because what they're trying to do is for global dominance again. They are going to come again. We are going to go through the process of slavery, the new form of it, take our resources and everything else. I am not an advocate of China, but I can tell you, out of all the imperialists today, China would be better off to be partnered with, or to use China as a leverage to able to break better deals with any other, imperialist nation. And if you look at Senegal, this is what they understand. That's what they're doing. Senegal understands this, that's what they're doing. If we are not careful, Russia, you think that the Sahel states are benefiting from Russia supporting them? No. No. You think the Sahel states are going to have the economic sovereign independence they're talking about? No. The Russians are going to guarantee their security for them to plunge the resources. Don't sit down today because you haven't seen the Burkina president doing, look, be careful. That's not to our interest. We should be very careful that Gambia should be, as a small nation, ready to bring about leaders that will understand all these issues going around. Not someone who just, look for the super kanja to eat, ice cream to eat, and any deal that comes, he takes it. The talkers are coming, and we see how they bind our country piece by piece. They bind the port, they bought the port technically. Now they're going for the airport and other things. And if you think that this oil, this drug trafficking is the Colombians or the South Americans doing it alone, is a lie. The French intelligence are part of this. I know that for a fact. For a fact. I sat in Dakar where a retired colonel that said it's retired, worked at the French embassy, sat with us in Senegal. And we know what they wanted for Gambia. We refuse to accept it. If you think the talkers have no hands, people will tell you it's the Hezbollah. The Hezbollah are reduced now, for years now. Go and find out almost every major discovery of cocaine in West Africa now is either Turkish nationals or French. Even the Gambians involved are people from French backgrounds, the Banta Ketas and others. And this present one we are looking at have a French background. And that's why we suspect, we haven't got a conclusive evidence that Banta Keta is part of it. And do you know Banta Keta is sitting in Dakar with his family from Mali. Do you know Banta Keita's wife in Gambia with all his networks, and they still, trafficking drugs? And if this consignment of drugs is alleged to be Banta's, don't rule it out. But inshallah, we'll come with our investigations during the week. They have already started selling the case. They have left the Moroccan arrested, who is of French background. They have left the Senegalese arrested in the boat. They have left the country, just as they left Banda. They have left the country. Now they are working at, controlling things and to kill the case. Because if you have to follow it, you will follow and find people who are directly at the heart of sponsoring Barros and PP. That's why these are the urgencies why we need change. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good afternoon.